I just need to start by saying a massive thank you to EA for providing me with a copy of the game. So you're here to find the best settings for F122 using the Logitech G920. These will work with the G923. And to get into the wheel settings, you need to go into Game Options, Settings, and then into Controls, Vibration, and Force Feedback. There are generic settings, and there are also settings for quite a lot of wheels that are out there, like the Thrustmaster TM28 and the Logitech G920. To edit your own settings, you need to select the default Logitech G920 and then select Edit. Currently, my race style is set at standard. It will go to expert once I've got used to everything in F122. And as for the control scheme, everything is currently at default. But for those of you that have the shifter, there's a neat little trick you can do with the shifter to turn it into an handbrake. As you can see, I've got a little elastic band going around the actual shifter itself to the actual bracket, holder, whatever you want to call it, here at the bottom. And then all you need to do is switch the handbrake to 4th gear. That way, every time you pull back on 4th, it's going to be the e-brake, and the elastic band will cause the e-brake to spring back. A neat little trick that I picked up from someone, I can't remember who. If I do remember, I will credit them in the description down below, but everything else is set to default. Now for the settings that I've done, I've created my own steering wheel profile and called it G920 with shifter brake. So for calibration, before we jump into calibration, I need to remind you that these are player specific. You may find these a little bit too much or a little bit too less. It all depends on the player. But these are the best base settings you're going to find in F122. For the steering dead zone, you're best setting that at 0. That way the rotation is just a lot more accurate. For the steering linearity, I've got that set at 5. If you have that too high, you're going to have more sensitivity away from the center, and it's really hard to get used to. For the steering saturation, I've got that set at 0. Now for the throttle dead zone, you're best going into the option to test buttons and rest your foot on the throttle. If you see that there's a slight input when you're resting your foot on the throttle, that's where you need to increase the throttle dead zone. As you can see there, I'm resting my foot and there's a value of 1. That's just to show you that I'm resting it a little bit more than I usually do. So I'd have to increase the throttle dead zone a little bit more so there's no input when I'm resting my foot on the throttle. Throttle linearity, I've got that set at 0. The more you increase the throttle linearity, the less the pedal has to travel when you're pressing it down. Throttle saturation, that increases the sensitivity, and I've got that set at 0. For brake dead zone, once again, rest your foot on the brake and see if there's any input from you resting your foot on the brake. So like there, I have a input of 1, that's just resting my foot. So I need to increase the dead zone by 2, and that way when I rest my foot on the brake, there's no input. For the brake linearity, as it says there, brake linearity, adjust the amount of difference in sensitivity between the starting point and the remainder of the brake pedal. A high linearity value will make the initial compression less sensitive than the final piece of pedal travel. And lastly, brake saturation. For this, you're going to need to test the buttons and press your brake pedal down until you feel you can't press it anymore. So there I've got full value, and that's with brake saturation set at 20. If you struggle to press the brake pedal down as much as I do, you just need to increase your brake saturation until you see that brake value there on the right hand side reach 100. And that is it for the calibration. For the vibration and force feedback, obviously you're going to have vibration and force feedback on. You're using the steering wheel with it, so why would you have it turned off? Vibration and force feedback strength, I've got that at 75. I want to be able to feel it as I'm going around the track, especially with these cars having so much force in them. It's unbelievable, and they're going that quick. You need to be able to react to where the car wants to go and adjust accordingly. On track effects, I've got that set at 32. I think 32 is just about right. Any lower and it just doesn't feel good enough at all, and any higher, there's just too much going on with the wheel. Rumble strip effects, I've got that set at 60. 60 for me was the sweet spot. You want to feel when you're going off track, and then you can adjust as soon as you start to feel it in the wheel. Off track effects at 55. I don't want to feel that as much as the rumble, because most of the time you can see when you've gone off track. Wheel damper set at 25. This allows you to feel what the wheels are feeling. Understeer and ANS, you really need to have this turned on. This is an absolutely amazing feature when it comes to the wheel. As it says there, you can feel where the limit of grip is, and it's so good to have switched on. Maximum wheel rotation, I've got that set to 360 for F1 and F2. Any lower and the wheel is really twitchy. Any higher and you're just not getting the level of control that you need. As for the supercars, I've got the wheel rotation set at 720. You can have it set as high as 900, but I found it really uncomfortable. It was too difficult. It was too difficult to control the car going through some of the corners with the full rotation. It wasn't good enough. It wasn't quick enough. So I switched that to 720 and it just felt so much better. And that is it for vibration and force feedback settings. Now, if you need to alter any of these, so if the force feedback strength is too high for you and you want to drop it down a bit more because it's too strong for you, always go down 3 steps at a time. That's the best way to look at it, is to go down 3 steps at a time. That way you're not getting too much of an adjustment and you're not getting too little. It's always best to go 3-step adjustments. So there where it's 75, if it's too strong, I'd drop it to 72 and then try it. If it's still too strong, drop it down to 69 and then try it, 66 and then try it until it feels right for you. Just remember that when you're adjusting the vibration and the force feedback strength, it can have an impact on the rest of the settings. So if you're reducing the strength, you're going to reduce the strength overall of everything else, like on-track effects. So you may need to increase these settings by 3 steps at a time to get the feel back of all of these settings. But these settings I have tried for well over a couple of hours. I've tried these for about 3 or 4 hours, and these are by far the best settings I've got out of F122 so far. Now, if there are any improvements to the settings, I will do an updated video and let you know. But as for now, these are the best settings I can provide you with for F122. Using the Logitech G920, they will work with the Logitech G923. They'll probably work with the Logitech G29 through PC as well. Don't forget to install the G-Hub software when you're using the G29 on PC. You can apply these settings to PlayStation as well when using the G29 on PlayStation. So these are good overall settings for the steering wheel in F122. If you do happen to try these settings and you have any feedback for me, please feel free to leave me a comment down below. Let me know what you thought of these settings. Let me know if you found you needed to make any adjustments. I'd love to hear your feedback. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to leave you with some gameplay of an F1 race and a supercar test drive. I need to go back in and change my vibration and force feedback to 75. The feedback I've been getting from my previous wheel settings videos has been absolutely phenomenal, especially with the F1 wheel settings. I've really enjoyed putting these together, and I just want to say a massive thank you. Your support has been amazing. And once again, a massive thank you to EA and Codemasters for providing me with a copy of the game. I couldn't thank them enough. It's been a privilege, it's been an honor. I truly appreciate it. And that's it, mateys. Enjoy the F122 wheel settings. Have an awesome day, have an awesome night. I look forward to seeing you all again in another F122 video. Stay safe, play awesome.